Hey everybody, welcome to Absolute Comics. I am Sal, and I'm joined today by Dan. Today we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff that's happening in the world of comics and comic book related media. Of course, before we get started, don't forget to check out our sponsors, G Fuel. You use comics at checkout, you'll save yourself 10% on your G Fuel order, and into the AM where you get some sweet shirts. Check all that information in the description below. Let's get started. Dan picked up a whole bunch of topics. One was particularly fun to me. Disney Plus tweeted out, in anticipation of Disney Plus Day, which I don't even know what the hell that's supposed to be. A tease for X-Men with a gif of Hugh Jackman popping the claws and the caption snicked #X-Men. Looks like we might be getting some big X-Men news from Disney Plus soon. Yes, this was they were counting down the days, and so each time that they were counting down, and they posted a like day counter tweet, and for the 6th day, 6 days left for Disney Plus Day, they had Wolverine popping 6 claws. They picked.
I actually never made that connection. I was just like, oh my gosh, they wanted the hype with Wolverine.
With Wolverine.
Yep.
Yeah,
All
they
right.
picked, it looks like Wolverine from Days of Future Past when he's in his younger body, when he has bone claws. Whether that's related, I'm sure that I genuinely get this impression from the next one, by the way, the 5th day was one of the monsters from Monsters Inc. or 7 days, where the monster from Monsters Inc. like held up his hand, which had 7 fingers on it. And he's like, 7. I think that this is Wolverine popping his claws in a Bryan Singer directed, Fox produced X-Men movie is essentially Disney just being like, we own this. I'm using the shit I own. This is my toy now. Like, I don't think it's a tease or a suggestion like, oh man, Wolverine, oh man, Hugh Jackman. I think it's just them being like, we own it.
Yeah.
It's mine.
It's probably going to be something like, hey, we've put all the movies on Disney Plus.
Which would be kind of cool, because eventually that's going to be the case. As I understand it, Comcast owns a portion of Hulu, but Disney has to, under contract, buy them out at some point in an indeterminate amount of time. I think it's within a few months to a year. But at some point, in the rest of the free world, all the Hulu content is over on Disney Plus. Like most movies and stuff is on Disney Plus. Disney Plus has like R-rated shows and movies and stuff. It's a pretty like interesting app over in like Canada and elsewhere. But we are eventually going to see a Disney Plus that's going to be like more one-stop shopping, similar to HBO Max and other places. I would imagine that one of those is to get all the X-Men movies in there, all the X-Men, everything that is X-Men, all the Deadpools, all the X-Men cartoons, all the X-Men everything. But my guess is if there's any kind of big announcement, it'll be like maybe a teaser trailer for the X-Men cartoon.
Yeah.
The X-Men 92 or 97 cartoon.
97, I think, yeah.
Yeah, 97. That would be my hope, because as I'm kind of in this funny place where, like, what was it? They just pointed for D23. They posted that like that art interpretation of like, a tease for D23, and it was like supposed to be like a promo poster, but like all these people on TikTok are like, look over there, there's every picture is like a suggestion, and like Spider-Man's in one of them, and they're like, did we get the rights to Spider-Man? I'm like, no, you didn't get the rights to Spider-Man. They're not gonna no, man. Like,
yeah, this is I can almost guarantee this is like, because it's Disney Plus Day that they're promoting, it's got to be just a, hey, we now have an X-Men portion of Disney Plus.
Yes.
You'll see the X-Men 97 cartoon showing up there, as well as we've got all the other cartoons, all the old movies. We got Logan, and they'll just put it all out as one giant thing and go, here you go.
Here you go. Like Legion, everything X-Men. That'd be kind of cool. They have that guy that they hired from the last episode we talked about where, there's a person in charge of like the
Keeper of the timeline.
Keeper of the timeline. They should have that person on their weekends put together the like old Fox timeline. So it's like you can go into the X-Men section. It's like you can watch all the X-Men stuff in whatever order makes the most sense, like Deadpool, X-Men, Legion, that Mutants show that nobody watched.
Oh, yeah,
all that
New
stuff.
Mutants. I
remember New
forgot.
Mutants? Yeah, like that was that show. I didn't see it, but I remember that being produced and coming out and whatever. Fox enjoyed the kind of franchise success that Disney was enjoying with the Avengers with just the X-Men. Like Disney could theoretically be like, yeah, we have the Marvel like the MCU and the X-Men could be two different universe franchises that they could exploit, and it's in the largest superhero interconnected franchise of all time. Like you, and they could treat the X-Men like it's its own damn thing. That's how big it is and how expansive it is. Like just exploiting the possibilities of Wolverine, Gambit, and Deadpool, and you got yourself 3 massive franchises. Bigger, I would say, than like Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man were back in the day, and they're still exploring like, Fantastic Four and stuff. So it would make sense for Disney to at least be like you suggested, like there's an X-Men section of Disney Plus, just all the X-Men right here. But I can imagine them also being like, but I don't want you to think that they're 2 separate things, because I want you to think us when you think of X-Men.
Yeah.
Moving right along, with in-person Comic-Cons returning, Warner Brothers Discovery has decided to cancel this year's FanDome for DC. Instead, all focus will be put back into the in-person events. This is an interesting choice. This is all written by Dan, by the way. This is an interesting choice considering DC did not have a booth at San Diego Comic-Con and has not given any word if they will have a presence in New York Comic-Con. I bet they don't. They didn't last year, and they didn't miss a thing. And if you've been to New York Comic-Con, which I know you have, and I'm sure members of our Intrepid audience have as well, their booth, such as it is a corner of a building where they have costumes and a booth. And when I say booth, I mean like a ticket booth with a person who doesn't know anything about the franchise standing there going, I don't know. And that's their whole presence at New York Comic-Con. So I'd imagine if that saves them a few $1,000s, they'll definitely take it.
Yeah, I saw this and I was like, first off, I'm pretty sure DC FanDome last year just went by and everyone was kind of like, oh, that happened? They were still doing that?
DC FanDome was a total fart last year.
Yeah, and so when I saw this, I just thought it was funny in the article, the fact that they were like, we're going to focus all our attention on in-person events, but we're not going to actually go. We're just going to, like...
Yeah, like what are you waiting for, DC? If you're gonna it used to be when you would lie, you'd have to have some effort put into the lie, Like I don't know. It just feels like they're not even trying.
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna blow smoke up my ass, at least have the courtesy of having smoke. But in this case, it's just no FanDome. It costs too much, and it probably did. As I understand it, the DC FanDome was a lot of coordination, a lot of work, and a lot of time, and a lot of effort from a lot of different people from across the world, all coming together to produce this thing. Which, if you run a YouTube channel, you basically do every day.
Right.
Good for you. But it was a real coordinated effort. It was really actually a celebration of like the fact that we are owned by a parent corporation, and as such, we have the ability to have all of our stuff under one banner and roof, which is something to say when your competition isn't allowed to use Spider-Man, or is, or whatever, I don't know, or can't make Hulk movies, So yeah, it was a big deal, and now it's over. And like you said, the last time that we had a DC FanDome, it was but that's par for the course for DC, where they introduce a game-changing option, like with their labels, with their imprints. They're like, hey, here's Vertigo, now it's gone. Here's Black Label. It's R-rated, like hard-edged, adult-oriented content for comic book fans. Oh no, never mind. Here's the Young Animal. Never mind. And with the DC FanDome, it was just like, oh well, here's a massive multimedia, celebratory, fan-oriented. Never the hell mind.
Which is a shame, because the DC FanDome had potential.
It did.
Like everyone's online. It had so much potential. If you improved as it went on, as opposed to just going, hey, let's just do the exact same thing. Okay, well, that no one's going to want it if you don't make it special.
No.
And so, I mean, I don't know if Warner Brothers Discovery has like their own convention, like their own D23, because I know that's why DC FanDome kind of started, was because they were like, oh, well, we need to compete with Marvel. They've got their own thing. We need our own thing. And if they're not even going to be showing up to actual cons,
right,
like they got to have something, right?
They got to have something. And honestly, like we've seen what the big two and their parent corporations, how they regard cons, which is to say they do not. Marvel at the very least has a big booth in the center of the building. So at the very least, you could see a big red Marvel logo over it, And then the second unit director on Ant-Man and the Wasp is here, and they're going to throw T-shirts at you. Hooray! Like, that's their presence at Comic-Cons, And it's like, oh, all right, well, that's really not impressive. But at least you're there, At least you're spending the money to make yourself known. Because sometimes when it comes to the entertainment industry, just being visible is important.
Yeah.
DC, Warner Brothers, Discovery. I mean, like, look, we know there's no rumor. They're hurting for cash and they're looking for ways to save it. Comic-Cons are an expense, even for folk like Dan and me. When we just go to cons, it costs thousands of dollars and we make $0 in revenue.
Yeah.
It's just about being seen and making a presence. And if you're like a national corporation with billions of dollars to make up, maybe you might want to save yourself a few G's, a few dozens of G's by not going to cons or not producing a con yourself. The problem is then you're losing visibility and you're losing market share by not being in front of anybody. So, I mean, it's a gamble, to be sure, to just take away fans' ability to communicate with each other and their fandom. But let's see if it pans out for them, Cotton. What's it called? Amazon. A Black Adam trailer. A new Black Adam trailer will be releasing this week, and test screenings have begun. Is that test screenings just for the trailer?
No. So from what I gather, it's test screenings for the movie, but
oh, thank God. Okay.
Yeah, but we're also going to be getting a trailer later this week. So
oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, Dwayne The Rock Johnson posted on Instagram his reveal to the audience, stating that there are invaluable learnings and takeaways from test screenings that he always secretly participates in. However, this post doesn't say much about how much the audience enjoyed the film, and one can only wonder if the appearance of the main star of the movie at the screening might influence potential reviews to be more positive as to not offend the actor. This is very true. When it comes to screenings, there is this like kind of unspoken rule. They're not allowed to influence you. They don't give you gifts and they don't give you like any, but they can fly you there and they can put you up and they can give you a lavish experience that may color your experience of seeing a movie that might otherwise, if you had watched it in a vacuum, be favored unfavorably. But when it comes to this, yeah, I mean, like, look, if Black Adam sucks, but The Rock is there being like, what'd you think? You're gonna be like, yeah, it's pretty good. You're not gonna be like, it was garbage, Dwayne. You're gonna be like, woo, that was great, and you're gonna be swept up in it. I mean, like, I saw Prey. We saw the Prey screening back at San Diego, and it wasn't the Black Adam movie, but like it was cool to see with the actors and the directors, and I wasn't influenced in as much as, but I can imagine how when they were asking questions, it's like you weren't gonna be like, yeah, you might want to tighten up the editing in the middle here. But test audiences, that's par for the course. That's part of the filmmaking process is test screenings.
Yeah,
they are super important to the process, or at least they are considered to be super important to the process by studios. Because look, it's art that you're putting out into the world. The only difference is like, when you make a painting, you don't then like show it to a bunch of people and go like, should we exhibit this in a museum? I mean, I don't know. Are they gonna like it?
Do I need to fix something up here? Like, did
exactly.
You like this part?
Right. What do you think about this dripping clock? Do you think that's like, what time should it be? But test audiences, I mean, they are a necessary evil to the process, and the idea that like The Rock says things like there are invaluable learnings and takeaways from test screenings. Like, yeah, that's the implicit part of a test screening. Like, he described what a test screening is.
Yeah,
that's not news, but it is like funny to hear that like he does participate in them, and it very much is in its own way influencing the audience. Like, it is a way to change the audience's perception of the movie. If you're given the movie and like a goodie bag and a Rolex watch and like all kinds of accoutrements along with that movie, you might be inclined to give the movie a better review than you would normally.
Yeah. And like, I mean, for all I know, there is like the bar from giving your opinion, and like people aren't allowed to say what they think about the movie from this. But honestly, like when I saw that he said that he always secretly participates in them, I'm like, that's an interesting way to basically be like, hey, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
Right? Like you might be less inclined to be like, this sucks, when you think that The Rock is somewhere in the room.
Exactly. Plus, it's also there's an aspect, because like when you on the video he posted, there was one person who was clearly a massive Rock fan, and so it's like when you show up for a situation like that, you're influencing these people that might not enjoy the movie, but enjoy you as a person.
Right.
And now that you're there, it's going to impact what they say or what they don't say. And so
yeah,
I just thought that was an
Helen.
interesting one. Just kind of, I think it's cool. I think it's
Yeah.
a fun experience, but I think it also sways the audience in a way that gives you not as accurate feedback as you could get if, like you said, it was done in a vacuum. Because like I've been flown to do not test screenings, but press junkets where I got to see it a little bit early, and the fact that they flew me out and like the experience definitely gave it a more positive light.
Absolutely.
If I was in the movie theater and then all of a sudden, like, when I did the Spider-Man Far From Home and then Tom Holland shows up and he's like, hey guys, I'm here. Let's chat. I'll take a picture. I'm going to be like, okay, I enjoy this more because this is now a more positive experience for me.
Overall, absolutely. Yeah, no, you created an experience. Well, and especially because like, no, it's true. That's, I think it's pretty shrewd, and it's like, on one hand, I admire the, the business acumen that The Rock has. Like, that may have affected a few Rampage reviews or Skyline reviews, because I remember seeing those trailers and be like, that looks like garbage, man, and then eventually being proven right. But I can imagine that The Rock's at that premiere for like all those press guys. It's like there's gonna be a couple of guys who are like, I don't find The Rock interesting. I don't want to see him. He's influencing me.
Right.
I don't like that. But for the most part, they're gonna be like, yay, The Rock was here, and then he took us all out to Denny's. Like, but yeah, but it is funny. It's funny to see that, and I wonder how often that happens for test screenings.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the interesting thing is that's what you do for a premiere because you want the reviews to come out. Test screenings are where you shape the movie based on what you imagine is a smattering of regular audience members. Yeah. This could be The Rock's tactic to influence a movie before it comes out, to be like, to lean the test screening in his favor a little more.
Right.
Like, we don't need to change anything about the movie. The test screening that I personally influenced said it's great as it is, so that's actually more shrewd than it lets on, because like we see it movie studios influencing premiere audiences all the time, but it's rare you hear about the test screenings, although it is not rare to have the filmmakers themselves be a part of it, like usually be in the room or watching the audience at the time. Certainly I've heard countless stories from like Kevin Smith and other directors who go to those test screenings to see what they say. Mm-hmm. It's pretty fun to see. Amazon suspended user reviews for the new Lord of the Rings show, Rings of Power, after a large amount of review bombs for the show, and has disabled anyone from leaving a rating on the show on the Amazon page and Prime app. As of the articles publishing, the show had an 84% critical rating on Rotten Tomatoes versus the 38% audience rating. This is a thing that is, it is an epidemic, or at least as mild an epidemic as you could possibly have for review bombing entertainment. But when it comes, if that's the thing you care about, like entertainment media and the language through which we all converse about it, then it is an epidemic where it's like there are people who have vested interests in altering the online discourse one way or another and not allowing a free exchange of ideas and not allowing true organic opinions to be heard. And so as such, they use these reviews as an opportunity to sway a conversation one way or another. Because the reality is, Rotten Tomatoes, like it or leave it, is how we judge from face value a movie's value. Mm-hmm. Like, we look at that review and go, whoa, 20%, I'm not even going to go bother seeing it. And if you review bomb a movie and you make it have less than fresh rating, then you have personally influenced that movie's success. Yeah. Like, you have prevented people from spending money on it and have influenced the process. And that is in its own way a form of fraud, but like genuinely it's like it is changing the discourse about the movie and changing the entire trajectory of that movie. And people have been doing that forever, or at least people have been doing that ever since Rotten Tomatoes has existed.
Yep.
And I wonder, and I'd like to get your opinion about this. I wonder, like, what the motivation is, because, not a lot of people take it upon themselves to create a fake account on Amazon or Rotten Tomatoes and give a negative review. In fact, we talk about online where we make our living talking, on YouTube or Twitch, the comments and
Mm-hmm.
how that represents a very small percentage of people who like feel motivated enough to actually share their opinion in that section. It's not a true, genuine depiction of what the audience is like, because that's only the people motivated to comment. And it used to be that when you wanted to give an opinion about a movie, you had to like write in, and so
Right.
you have a very small opinion or a very small group of people who are motivated enough to like write on paper and mail it or send an email and send it. Like it's hard to get. So I wonder like where these reviews are coming from and why. Where do you suppose this army of people comes from?
Right. So I've heard a couple things. First, I've heard that fans of other shows such as House of Dragon and like competing shows are trying to smother it. But I think this is also a kind of something that we're dealing with as a society when we build upon beloved franchises like Lord of the Rings. It's no question that it is massive. It's got diehard fans. It's got people that read the books, that watch the movies, that know the weird detail behind why the sword does this thing in this situation. Like, we've got people like that. And I think we've reached a point where people don't like additional information being added because it doesn't fit with what they believe the extra amount of this universe should be. Like, okay. I think because some of the there was one like comment in the article where it was like, the show is an affront to true Lord of the Ring fans. The people who wrote this should be arrested. It was ridiculous like that, but it was very much one of those, no, I understand Lord of the Rings better than you do. Therefore, like, I feel like these are the people that, regardless of the show, it could be amazing, it could be terrible, no matter what, they're
going to have that opinion.
They would have that opinion because that's just the way it is. Like, this happens in everything from like Star Wars, like Lord of the Rings, the Game of Thrones stuff right now.
Yeah.
People don't like extra information that does not align with what they saw in their head exactly. And if it's not exactly as they wanted it to be, I'm going to review bomb this, because then other people should know that if myself as a hardcore gatekeeping fan, if I'm not approving of this, then no one should be approving of this.
Right. Yeah, and if the argument is going in the other direction, then I need to fight twice as hard to influence it. Because the thing is, if this thing is bad, then it will be rejected. I mean, it should, right? That's how fairness works. That's how justice works. If the evil is punished and good is rewarded, except we all know that we don't live in a fair, just reality in society. And so as a result, like, sometimes we got to help things along. And I think that in this case, your suggestion is that, like, I'm just helping things along. I'm helping to influence the conversation so that, the true voice, my opinion is heard and represented. I think there's something a little more sinister going on here, and I don't necessarily want to spend the entire time talking about it, but I will just put it out there because I don't hear it very often, and I know that that's definitely the thing that's happening. And it's that, like, I think that there's a combination of factors. There's the combination of there are people who find joy in media, and they go beyond that joy into comfort. Star Wars, Spider-Man, comic books, superheroes, media like that they find comfort in it, and they ascribe an identity to it. And as a result, like, they feel that, like, something that happens to those characters, something that happens to that universe, if there's another interpretation of it, it may affect me. It may influence me. It may have a reflection of what I am, might change my whole perception of my own identity. And so as such, they look for confirmation bias. They go out there and they look for people who agree with themselves, who find that they share their own opinions. And when they do that, they run the risk of searching for and finding people who recognize that desire, that need for connectivity. And what they do is they exploit that need by having their own agenda as subtext in their narrative. And what they're saying is, yes, you're right to think that like a new Lord of the Rings show is actually changing the old Lord of the Rings and is influencing you as a person and is taking something away from you. And also that like, and then you insert some horrible, non-related political or ideological belief that is maybe contrary to the norm or contrary to progress, but because I'm couching it in this thing, you might find yourself connecting to, regardless of whether you're even aware of it. And so when these personalities out in the internet who are using something as ubiquitous as like entertainment and fantasy media to further some kind of hidden darker agenda, they weaponize it and they use it as a way of being like, okay, well, now I'm going to tell you how to feel, and I'm going to tell you what you believe because you've already put your trust in me, just as you've put trust in this franchise that I've used and weaponized to get you and ensnare you.
Right.
And then I'm going to unleash you on things that I think might help give me power, money, advantage, whatever. And I exercise that by sending you to like Brigade, a live show that's talking about the next DC superhero event, or I'll use you to review bomb a show that might otherwise have like 25 reviews because who would bother to review a show like this?
Right.
But now 10,000 reviews have come out. And that's the thing, is that these Hollywood types, they don't know the difference. They don't understand how this works. And so, they're like, well, we average about 100 reviews per show lifespan. Like how many people watched, the Haunting of Bly Manor, and it's like, well, we got 487 reviews on Bly Manor over the past 2 years. But we've got 10,000 reviews on Lord of the Rings. It's like, but we can look inside and we can see that like not 10,000 people watch this episode.
Yeah.
But they don't know or make the correlation, so they go like, 10,000 reviews, that's 10 times the amount of reviews we normally get, which means we got to take it seriously. And so as a result, these personalities out there who use people who are otherwise looking just for comfort or nostalgia or just some kind of like belonging, they're influencing, or at least they believe they're influencing the culture itself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. And I don't blame Amazon for like disabling ratings.
Oh yeah, not at all.
Like that's what people do to maintain a community. Like in order to maintain an online community, you have to make curations and cullings. Like I grew up during the time when the internet was formed,
right?
And I remember like Usenets and web message boards and groups like that, and like the idea of there being like this cockamamie concept of like the internet is like censorship of any kind is bad. It's like, oh, okay, so you're okay with like underage exploitation,
right?
I'm trying to save us from getting flagged by any kind, so I'm saying stupid words that don't actually mean what I'm saying, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But so you're okay with underage exploitation? Well, that's illegal. It's like, okay, but like censorship though, we shouldn't be talking about that or using that anyway. It's like censorship is not the conversation here. We're talking about curating an audience and a community, and in this case, it's a private company that's like, I'm not going to put out this $1 trillion endeavor only to have it be like, lopsided with phony reviews called like Loader Sucks 00014. It's like, no, it's not going to work that way.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that we live in that kind of world where the internet uses that kind of power that it has.
We've reached the point that reviews are a form of weaponry at this point.
Yeah.
Because like we see this in other things as well. When like if people go to a restaurant and they don't get exactly what they want, they'll go say something that's not true on the review, because most of the time people don't read the reviews. They just go, oh, it's a 38%. Oh, it's a 3%.
Look at the number. Well, who's got time?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And so I think this would be a different situation if, say, the critics' reviews were 40-50%, and like if it was more aligned, I think it would have been like okay, now you're just trying to make sure people can't say bad things. But if a large portion of people have come out being like, no, this was a really good show,
Yeah.
There's suspicion there where it's like, okay, we're gonna just block this off for a bit. We'll let you guys cool down, let people form their own real opinion after a couple episodes, then we'll open it back up.
Exactly.
And
it doesn't cost anything. The thing is, it's so easy. Like the barrier to entry is so low. Like create an account, make up a thing, click the star, and we're done. The way that we like to influence the culture, and the way that we like to influence like the way things are, I think is a little bit more organic, and it speaks volumes because it's about spending money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if I liked this show, I've never seen a single episode of it, so I can't speak to it, and I'm not going to. But like, if I loved this show and I wanted to see it succeed, I would encourage people to get an Amazon Prime subscription. I would encourage people to watch it.
Yeah,
you know, not review it, just watch it, because that's the real message that says something to them. You know, if I'm using my influence in any way, which I don't necessarily have, but let's say we did, to influence people to watch a thing, or in our case, since this is technically a comic book show, to buy a comic book.
Right.
You know, like, hey, there's this comic book out, nobody really read it, and it's never going to get like an oversized or hardcover edition, so buy the shit out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that sends a message, and that message is like that people are buying it, and that there's an audience that would buy it if you had a better marketing department. I think that's a much more healthy way of expressing influence, and also for expressing like a desire to see more of a certain thing out in the world.
Right.
And by contrast, less of a thing. You know, like people complaining endlessly about like a run or a movie franchise or TV show. Don't watch it. Don't subscribe to it.
Yeah.
You know, like just pull your support from it, and that actually has influence, and it actually sends a message, as opposed to like creating a fake account and saying something vitriolic that will otherwise be ignored or dispensed with because of the nature of what you're saying. Right. Because it's like, oh, well, there's 17 spelling errors in a sentence with 4 words in it. I'm not going to regard that, you know, like, or, you know, they have a username that's just an auto-generated thing, you know, like, or their account is literally 20 minutes old, you know. Like, these are not going to be ways that we truly impact the culture. All you're doing is giving a bad name to the audience that likes this thing.
Yeah. You're discrediting the audience. Like, at this point, a lot of the time, it's hard to trust the user review because you don't know if it got review bombed or if it was just genuinely a bad show.
Totally. And sometimes it's easy to tell, you know, like if it's like an older show or it's an older movie and you're like, oh, 12%, but this is Bruce Willis in it. I don't understand. Right. I'm just thinking about, there's this weird Bruce Willis movie about how he was like a cop. Well, if you could believe it, doesn't matter. There's all these random movies out there that are like, oh, this movie has 2 stars, but it has all these people in it. Watch. Oh, okay, it's really bad. Like these reviews were warranted, you know? But if it's like, oh, this show just literally premiered and it has like a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes and it has, you know, 1,000 reviews on it, it's like, this is fake.
Yeah.
Like what you've done is fake. But you know, any final thoughts on that? Because I know we got it kind of heady and stuff.
No.
Moving forward, DC Comics revealed the name of the Joker. Yeah, right. DC Comics revealed the name, Joker's real name in Flashpoint Beyond #5. In the Flashpoint universe, Martha Wayne became the Joker, but this issue reveals what happened to the person that would have become the Joker and did become the actual Joker in the main universe, which gives him a full name. I don't want to spoil it, so I'll just say buy Flashpoint #5. You want to know what it is, but you should know that, you know, Jeff Johns is in Jeff Johns' world and writes his own entirely different event that's happening with this other event over here. He wrote 3 Jokers, so maybe that is the case. Although
maybe this is one of the Jokers.
Which is, that's the thing, is that, like, did he really reveal the Joker, or did he reveal one of the Jokers? Which Joker is it? I myself haven't actually had a chance to read the issue, so I don't know which Joker it is.
I haven't either. I just put this on there because I thought it was funny because of the fact that everyone's going to be jumping on this as this big thing, as if we didn't just get Jack Napier a little while ago. We had Joe Kerr for a while.
Joker?
Like,
well, that was his old. Yeah, that was.
But like, there have been enough that I think it's safe to say at this point, Joker is never going to have an actual name that sticks.
I hope not. I genuinely don't like the idea of the Joker having, and I especially because the problem with the Joker having a name, or not having a name, is that eventually, like after 100 years, and we're getting there, you're going to have like this list of identities or aliases the Joker's had. And someone always comes out every 10, 15, 20 years who's like, let me tell you what the Joker's all about.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what the Joker's real name is. And like the the universe the Joker comes from, the world that the Joker, generates, does not want him to have a real name.
Yeah.
So like every name you come up with is just going to it's just going to be retconned out or used as like an alias or ignored generally by the audience, because the world that the Joker generates as a result of his existence and the stories that he centers around says that the Joker's anonymous.
Yeah.
Like, but that's cool that they went with that. I mean, like, it's sometimes, I question the motivations of some of these comic book creators. Jeff Johns, engineered the modern DC universe post Infinite Crisis. Like he created the Green Lantern Corps the Green Lantern universe and Spectrum Corps as it is identified today.
Yeah.
Like it's his fault. He generated the New 52, and whether he wants to take credit for that or not, like it's Flashpoint that made that happen.
Yeah.
He engineered Rebirth. Like he set up Barry Allen's return, Harold Jordan's return. Like, so I could think of a worse person to suggest who the Joker's real name is, but I don't think that he's big enough to be able to say, oh, this is the Joker's true name.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also question like why someone would introduce the Joker's name.
I honestly think that this is a promotional thing because it's not main universe. So he's got the freedom to kind of do what he wants. And we saw some comments in our live stream right now. I'm sure we'll see some below the stream or below the video for people that have not gotten to this portion of the video. Why are you going to talk about this? But it's getting headlines. People are going, Joker's got a name. Where is it? Flashpoint Beyond. There you go. People are going to buy it just for the sake of it's got this. And then you're going to get the people who are like, oh, you know what? If this is his name, I should buy this comic, save it so that when it gets big in a couple, like in 10, 20 years, I can sell this for big a lot of money. And
absolutely. No, yeah. But there's a lot of like gears at work when it comes to this kind of thing. Like, what's the motivation there? Is it purely story? Is it a desire to like maybe elevate your brand a little bit, get people's eyes on it, maybe elevate sales, maybe elevating sales will elevate your brand personally, maybe help out the collector's market a little bit. There's a lot of different like balls in the air and gears at work when it comes to this kind of a move, especially when it's in a book called Flashpoint Beyond, starring a not Bruce Wayne Batman. But I digress.
Right.
Speaking of Batman Day this year is going to be September 17th, when DC will celebrate 80 years of Batman stories. There'll be 2 free comics available on Batman Day: Batman Hush #1, Batman Day Special, and Batman Mystery Casebook Batman Day Special Edition. DC will also be releasing a special edition of 2002's Batman #608, the first chapter of Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee's 12-part mystery. Batman Day will also feature various other elements or special events, including of older films being shown at the exclusive Cinemark theaters, and an in-game multiverses Batman event and more. I don't know why they're focusing on Hush so much. Maybe they're using
apparently there's going to be, I want to say in October, a Batman Hush special edition like hardcover book that's coming out. Why it's Hush, I don't know, but I believe it is around the release of this hardcover trade that they're trying to kind of get your interest back in the character so that when it does come out, you're like, oh, I just got refreshed on that. I'll go ahead and buy it.
Exactly. Yeah, getting out a special like #1 issue will definitely like light the fires. Plus, it's a great entry point for a lot of fans. It shows you all of the major villains, introduces a new one, but like without having to like get too deep in the weeds about it. It's got great art. Jim Lee is like he's an executive at the company, so it's not a problem to have that be the celebrated art on the book. There's a lot of reasons to make that the book.
Yeah.
The more important thing to walk away from this is that on Batman Day at 2:15 p.m. local time, Mask of the Phantasm is going to be released. So you gotta have to go to your Cinemark and watch it. Right after that, 4:30 p.m. Batman 89, and then Batman Returns at 7:25. Dude, that's awesome. And we have a Cinemark nearby. We don't have a Cinemark nearby. It closed. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. but I really want to see Mask of the Phantasm in theaters.
Yeah. I thought that was
so
kind of
awesome.
cool because it's just like hey, let's celebrate this. Let's give these older films another shot in the spotlight. Let's just have a good time.
Yeah, and that's like it gives Batman Day some weight. Sometimes Batman Day is like like Spider-Man Day. Like what day is it? Because I've heard 2 different dates, and I'm like, and someone in the comments be like, this is the day, and it's like, yeah, officially, yeah, but like on my Twitter feed, certain people at different times will be like, this is Spider-Man Day, and Marvel does nothing about it.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Batman Day is like Batman Day. Special stuff is coming out, comic books, promotional materials, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. Talks with Dan Lin, producer for movies such as It and the Lego Movie, and DC have fallen through. We talked a little bit about who would be the next Kevin Feige for DC Comics or for DC films, and we had a couple of ideas, none of whom were Dan Lin, but right around the same time that video was released, there was some rumors and some speculation that Dan Lin was going to be the tapped to be the new Kevin Feige for DC. Well, it turns out that's not happening. Reasons are not fully known. A deal was not made, and Dan will instead stay at Rideback, his own movie and TV venture, and also the search for DC's Kevin Feige continues. This is funny because, like, I questioned whether one can hire a Kevin Feige when you need a Kevin Feige who is essentially like an unquestionable force within the company. Like Feige rose through the ranks as a producer on multiple projects to become like the executive producer on this thing. Like, if I can hire a Kevin Feige, I can fire a Kevin Feige. And if you can fire a Kevin Feige, then you don't got no Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
Because you need a person who is answerable only to like the head of the studio, who can make executive decisions that may not look good to typical Hollywood types, but he knows are good from years of experience making superhero movies and enjoying superhero comic books.
Yep.
I don't think that was Dan Lin, so I'm glad that didn't work out.
Yeah. When I first saw that, my first thought was, it's just another rumor thing. Like, because everyone talks so much, even us, talk about the new Kevin Feige, who would be a good one. I don't think that this would have been a good one. I mean, the fact that they said It and the Lego Movie as the examples, and like there's no history with superheroes at all, it doesn't really work. And I feel like you said, you can't really hire a Kevin Feige. I think it's more of a, as weird as this is to say, you grow a Kevin Feige. You raise, because it's got to be someone who has the love, has the passion, but also has the respect. And I think that's a key thing in getting someone on, because if you have someone that people don't respect, people are not going to fully follow their vision. They're not going to go, you're right. Over the years, you have earned my trust that I will follow what you say. Like Kevin Feige, a lot of the early films, he brought on people and actually, from what I've read, was very close in guiding it towards a certain direction. And then as things went on, he kind of gave them more freedom because he fostered and grew the universe, and then became a standard that it was like, now we can go forward with this because you guys know my standard. You know what I'm going for. And I've proved it can work. And hiring someone who did the Lego Movie, regardless of the fact that I loved the Lego Movie, I thought it was a great film.
Great.
I don't immediately go, Lego Movie, yes, he's going to do a great Batman and Wonder Woman. Like, that's not my... And I'm sure other directors and writers probably would be in the same boat. So, I hopefully they'll... If you can't grow one, hire someone that has already shown it in at least maybe not a superhero franchise, but another franchise. Like it's got to be a franchise person to take that role to show you can do one thing and continue it and keep the quality. Anyone can make one solid hit. It's like your comment earlier of, well, if there's all these big names, how can it be a bad movie?
Right. Like, what?
Just because you were a big name in a great movie doesn't mean you're always gonna be in great movies.
Exactly. It was like when what was it? Didn't DC hire J.J. Abrams? And it's like, if you heard that J.J. Abrams is going to be the new Kevin Feige for DC, I'd be like, oh no, because J.J. Abrams made some stuff that I love, and he has not.
Yeah.
You know, and he is not like a hallmark of quality. Like, you need a person who knows at least that they have a discerning mind, that they can say, you know what, we're in the middle of this thing and it's garbage. We gotta, you know, I wouldn't even trust Peter Jackson at this point because he made those 3 Hobbit movies. You know, it's like it's tough. It's a tough act to follow, and it's a tough job to have. I would argue, you know, I don't have a solution, but I'm also not in charge of $1 billion franchise or an entire movie studio. Yeah. So like, you know, they're gonna have to come up with something. But and I don't blame Lin for not taking the job, because honestly, that's an unenviable gig, and it's a hard row to hoe, and there's a lot of working parts, and you're not just managing a franchise. You know, like the whole point of what Feige did is he built up franchises. Like as we've talked about in previous shows, like Captain America is a franchise, Iron Man's a franchise, Thor is a franchise, Spider-Man is a franchise. Like, these are all different franchises that all have their own movies and could have their own spin-offs. Like, you could make a Bucky movie, you could make like you know, a War Machine movie. Like, you can do all those things, and they could all have been their thing, but they're also part of a larger franchise that manages to coordinate and corral all those things and lead them towards something that the audience who watches maybe some of those franchises wants to see all of. You know, that's a tough act to follow. It's hard to pull off, especially when you're hired during a tumultuous time by an unpopular leader whom you might not be answering to in the future because they're probably going to get ousted by a board of directors. Like, there's a lot of tumult in that situation. But then, and it's like,
oh, sorry, continue.
No. That's it. Just like it would be hard to do. And I think, like, you know, if I got into this industry to make movies and tell stories, and I was hired to do that, I might not do that, because it's just, holy damn, will I be in meetings, endless meetings, coordinating and talking about characters and which ones can be used and how to make it work. Like that's a really specific type of person.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're a creative who wants to like produce or direct, you know, it doesn't necessarily speak to you.
Plus,
what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, like, another aspect of this that I think a lot of people might not be considering is the fandom that you are going into, and how Ben Affleck said being Batman was one of the worst experiences in his life because the fans were not big fans. And like, if one actor can feel that badly and go, I am never going to do this or anything like it again. If one actor for one movie is feeling that way, you got to be very confident in yourself and your plan to go, hey, I will be the fall guy for all of these movies.
Absolutely. No, and it will be on you. Like, people like, you know, tweeting at Kevin Feige, like, hey, hire this person, hire that person. Like, you know, he doesn't cast people.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that job goes to Sarah Finn, who has cast like all of them. You know, like, she's the one everybody likes because she's the one who cast all these people. Like, people are like, oh, Kevin Feige, like, but he's the guy. He's the fall guy. Yep. You know, the job doesn't have a job. It's just called Kevin Feige. Who's the next Feige? That's not a job. That's a person's name.
Yep.
Like, so it's like, who's gonna be the next Lin? You know, like, that's a tough job. That's a tough act to follow. It's a hard situation to be in, and I don't envy anybody for doing that. And I question people who want it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't blame them. But, you know, the quest continues. Good luck, DC films. We'll see where it goes. But whoever it is, I hope that they love the comics.
Yeah,
because that's all it's going to take. You know, there are a few names I have in my back pocket. We've talked about them. You should check out that video and all the videos here on Absolutely Marvel and DC. Of course, if you haven't already checked out this channel, you should subscribe. Consider checking out the memberships, because that's another way that you can get exclusive stuff and access. Of course, don't forget our sponsors, G Fuel and Into the AM. I want to thank Dan for jumping in and doing this show. And of course, we'll see you guys next time with an all-new episode of Absolute Comics and more here at Absolute Marvel and DC. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.